All right, so good afternoon, everyone. It is now 4:02. I want to thank you all for joining this quarterly session of the Mayor's Bicycle Advisory Commission. Understanding that today we are driving progress towards a safer, more accessible, and sustainable bike infrastructure across Baltimore. So our agenda today, as you will see, will be committed to fostering a collaborative approach to addressing the challenges that are shaping our cycling infrastructure. Now, I do look forward to all of your insights and your continued dedication as we work to enhance the mobility and build community connections. Today, we have the pleasure of also introducing our new MBAC commissioners. So I'm going to run through the agenda rather quickly, and then we will go ahead and move in to the introduction of our new commissioners. So as stated, we're going to start with the welcoming of the new commissioners. We're going to roll into the project review of the Greenway Trails Network, starting with the Druid Hill Park to Lake Montebello 30% design. We're going to get project updates on the Greenway Trails Network when it comes to the Norfolk Southern, the Patapsco Regional Greenway in Cherry Hill, the Maryland Transportation Trails Strategic Plan, the near miss survey reminder. We're then going to roll into the Bike to Work Week and iRide. Exciting stuff happening there. We're also going to get a micro-mobility update, and we're going to close out with community updates, events, and any further questions to close out. So with that, I'm going to roll right into our first line item, welcoming our new MBAC commissioners. So I'm going to give actually each commissioner the opportunity to introduce themselves. They'll be able to talk a little bit about themselves. I'm going to give them about 2 minutes to do this. You can introduce yourself, your name, your organization, and why you wanted to serve on this commission. And I want to start with identifying our honorable council member, Mr. Jermaine Jones. I'm going to start with you, sir, and then we'll roll around. Do apologize that Mr. Jones was able to join. He has not joined us yet, so my apologies. I thought I saw him on here. We will go ahead and roll on through. So I'm going to go across the top and work my way around. So with that, I am going to go with Miss Michelle Peralta, and you please correct me if I'm pronouncing your names incorrectly, but I'll go ahead and start with you, ma'am.
Hey everybody, my name is Michelle Peralta, and I am I'm the director at the Baltimore City Local Health Improvement, Baltimore City Health Department. And so what I bring is a lot of content knowledge. We just did our community health assessment, which I think will bring some data that will be very useful for you all. And I wanted to be on here because I have a young one and she just started biking. She's 5. And so I'm very excited for her to get into the bike world with me. She did eat the cement yesterday and had a bloody nose, but you know, it's going to be okay. She's going to figure it all out. So excited to be here, excited to be supporting you all on all your initiatives. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to move over to Mr. Matthew Blinkley.
Hey, so I'm Matthew Blakeney. I'm with Traffic Engineer 2. I've been biking around the Baltimore community since I was little, and my dad taught me. I use it primarily for transit, so I'm really excited to be on this commission to bring engineering expertise and insight to the commission, and also a background again of transportation, biking, and trying to see how we can make Baltimore City more equitable with all that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I want to move now to Mr. Sean Becker.
Good afternoon. Can you see me, hear me, and everything?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So my name is Sean Becker. I am here on behalf of Baltimore City Recreation and Parks. Recreation and Parks kind of goes without saying. We get a lot of bikers coming through. We get a lot of cyclists, commuters. We have a lot of trails that go through our parks and places. Me specifically, I am the manager of outdoor recreation. So we do a lot of like bike rentals. We're going to be participating in Bike to Work Week. We do events all over the city. So naturally, I felt it was a very good fit to be participating in this committee. I sat on a couple of the meetings when I was a programs assistant when I first began working with Baltimore City. So now I'm happy to be involved in sort of a bit of a bigger role, and I'm looking forward to working with y'all.
Thank you for that. Next, we'll have Mr. Quentin Batts.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Quentin Batts. I'm with Rails to Trails Conservancy. I'm their Baltimore project manager, and we've been working really closely with the city on the Baltimore Greenway Trail Network for a couple of years now. And I've been attending these meetings for a few years now, but it's I'm happy to be accepting a larger role, and I'm really dedicated into the multimodal connectivity of all the networks in the city. So happy to be a part of the team.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Veronica Davis.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
I hope you can see me. I feel like I'm disappearing on my thing, but I am Veronica Davis. I am the National Practice Director for Planning and Environment for Atkins Realis. I am an engineer. I am a planner, so I argue with myself a lot. I'm not from Baltimore, but I got here as fast as I could. I recently moved to the Guilford neighborhood. I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation. Previously, I was at the City of Houston as the Director of Transportation and Drainage Operations. So I can definitely give you a perspective, you know, as they say, from the rooter to the tutor, beginning of projects, all the other drama in between. I am also the author of Inclusive Transportation, a manifesto for repairing divided communities. And I really believe strongly that biking is a could be safer, but affordable way for people to be able to navigate the city. And I think that it is incumbent upon all of us to facilitate that. And like Michelle, I have a 5-year-old who is biking. And so I hope that as she gets older, she will be able to bike to school and bike to recreation and all of those things. Thank you.
Happy Friday.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to roll over to Mr. Patrick McMahon.
Thanks. Hi, I am here representing the Baltimore City Department of Planning, where I'm one of the 2 Inspire planners who work on developing and implementing community plans for schools that have been rebuilt or renovated through the 21st Century Schools program. I started at the Department of Planning about 6 months ago, and previously spent 11 years at the Maryland Transit Administration working on improving bicycle and pedestrian access, and also spent a year at BC DOT as a bike ped planner a long time ago, and I've also worked in consulting and advocacy on transportation planning. I live in Baltimore's Able neighborhood, and I'm a regular bike commuter, and excited to be part of the commission.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Jed Weeks.
Afternoon, everyone. Jed Weeks. I'm the executive director of Bike More. So we're Baltimore City's livable streets advocacy organization. And most people on the call know about us, but we represent about 10,000 active members in the city, in addition to representing everyone that walks, bikes, or takes public transit in the city or otherwise lacks access to a car. I live in Remington with my wife. We're both bike and transit commuters daily. Have a 3.5-year-old who is on his balance bike and shortly going to try pedals this weekend. So we'll see how it goes.
All right. And then we're going to round it out with Miss Sarah McIntyre.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah McTeer. You can call me Sarah Mac too, because I know it's a hard one to pronounce. I use she/her pronouns, and I'm really honored to be here and serving as the community representative. I'm currently a Master's of Science and Public Health student in health policy at Hopkins. And I am also working as a program coordinator with the Center for Gun Violence Solutions. I am a transplant from the West Coast, and I grew up biking and absolutely love biking. And moving to Baltimore, biking is my preferred and main mode of transportation. So I'm really excited to be here and to support the work.
Awesome. And thank you for that. And with that, I am going to circle back to our honorable councilman, Mr. Jermaine Jones. If you want to take a moment to introduce yourself.
Yes, Councilman Jermaine Jones from District 12. Just happy to be here. Haven't been much of a biker, but you know, biking and transportation is something that's important to all the communities I represent. So And they feel two different ways about it, but hopefully I can be, someone, a convener. That's what I feel like my role is as a council person, to let people understand the importance of, biking and the infrastructure throughout the city. So thanks.
Awesome. And our goal is to make sure you have all the pertinent information you need to be able to educate your constituents on the benefits of a multimodal approach.
Absolutely.
Now, with that, I do apologize because I got so excited about starting, I never introduced myself. My name is Alan Robinson. I am the Assistant City Administrator here for operations and have been working with the great team to try to improve our multimodal approach across the city. And I always look forward to this opportunity to meet with our citizens and our bike enthusiasts and our folks who are not so enthusiastic about it, but are here in earnest to want to learn and get more information as we move forward. So with that, I am going to turn it over to my co-defendant here, my partner in crime, Mr. Sean Burnett, to introduce himself and then to walk us through the next phase of our discussion.
Sure. So hello, everybody. My name is Sean Burnett. I am the Capital Planning Chief for Baltimore City Department of Transportation. This next portion, we're going to try something new that's also something old, but try and walk through quickly the 30% designs of one of our Greenway Trails portion that we're progressing. May Hanslick, who is the project manager of this, is on the call. And so, Ms. Hanslick, are you walking us through this or would you like me to do it?
I sure am.
Great. And so I think I'm going to turn it over to her and let her talk about this fantastic, exciting project.
Excellent. So like Sean said, we're hoping to do a couple things with MBAC moving forward, kind of do a project review section, and then also give you updates on some of the projects that are moving forward. So that's how we're trying to think about this agenda moving forward. So we'll start with the Greenway Trails Druid Hill Park to Lake Montebello project. If you're not familiar with this project, this would be a trail that would be connecting Druid Hill Park over here, all the way over to Lake Montebello on the northeast side. It's a 2.8 mile separated trail. And if we just think from a very broad, big picture, what are we trying to do with this project? What are the project's goals? We want to be increasing access to parks and green space by building out this crucial segment. We want to make it easier for people to get to the places that they want to go, like the grocery store, the libraries, schools. This segment or this corridor is filled with all sorts of excellent resources that people want to get to easier and safely, and they want to be able to do it by walking, biking, rolling, scootering, etc. And lastly, we really want to be improving roadway safety, especially for our multimodal users. So like Sean said, we're going to do a 30% design walkthrough. It's a little bit ambitious, but we're hoping to get some good information out of it, share some good information with you all. Just from like a timeline perspective, we are hoping to get a design consultant on board in 2025 to be able to complete the final design for this project. So right now it's at the 30% design phase. That's what we're going to share with you all. This was completed a couple of years ago. I believe it's May 2023, which you can see on the screen here. So it's been a little bit since we've picked it back up, but we're picking it back up and we're going to try to be moving it forward. So I'm going to go ahead and switch screens for a second here. Can y'all see that? Okay, excellent. So the way we're going to go about this is I'm going to walk through these design files at a good speed, and then we're going to open it up to our commissioners for questions, and then we're going to open it up to the public for questions. So as I'm moving through it, I'll try to do it at a good pace. Please make a note of your questions. Feel free to put them in the chat if you'd like as well. So like I said, this project's limit of work starts in Druid Hill Park. If you know where the Druid Hill Park pool is, that's right here. So we've got our Greenway trail segment starting on the south side here with a 10-foot width. That continues along Wyman Park Drive, staying on the south side. As we go across the bridge here, we'll be coordinating with the bridge department to make sure we're up to snuff on that. And then as we cross over Jones Falls and Falls Road, we are still at, right here, we're at about 9.5 feet. And then we'll stay on the south side. Right now the plans have us staying on the south side, dropping it down to 8 feet. And as we come up to Sisson Street here. Like I said, right now it's on the south side. We know that the existing conditions have kind of shifted on the north side here. So that will be something we explore with the design team once they're on board. It continues across Sisson Street here, and right now the plans have it where we turn this into Wyman Park Drive into a one-way, and we keep the trail, the Greenway Trail, on the south side here. I believe this width gets us to about 12 feet on the south side. It also includes the addition of angle parking, and I believe that was to increase access for people driving to the park, which is on the south side. As we get closer to Remington here, again, continuing on the south side, but when we hit Remington, we have it. Right now, these are not quite updated because as part of Johns Hopkins DSAI project, they are actually planning to build this segment on the north side here, but we currently have a Sharrow for the Wyman Park Drive up until San Martin Drive here. So the updated plans will of course reflect the work that Johns Hopkins is going to be doing as part of this project. When we hit San Martin Drive, we're going to be on the east side. Still need to hash out exactly what's going to happen here with the entrance back on once we get onto San Martin Drive there. The project continues on the north side here, again at 12 feet, crossing through a couple intersections. Can't remember if this is the garage, but if that's not the garage, it's coming up. Moving along Wyman Park Drive. And Patrick, I see that comment, which is an easy one to answer. We've got a Streets of Baltimore page that is incoming for this project, and these plans will be posted as part of that project. And then as we hit Art Museum Drive here, which is where BMA is right up here, the path widens quite a bit. The trail widens to about 20 feet width as we go along Art Museum Drive, staying on the north side of the street. We continue along Art Museum Drive. And then when Art Museum Drive hits Charles Street, the current designs have it going all the way across Charles Street to the east side and taking up the easternmost side of the service road here at 10-foot width. We'll go north up until we hit 33rd here. So still staying on the east side of the service road until we hit 33rd. And then when we hit 33rd, some of you might be familiar with the existing path in the median along 33rd that I believe Hopkins built out. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong about that. And so we'll continue on that until we hit St. Paul Street. And when we hit St. Paul Street is when we officially move it back in, or we keep it in the median, but this is where the project recommences. And it's pretty much a 12-foot, I believe, trail segment along 33rd for quite a while. So I'm going to move kind of quickly through this. There's a number of intersections along this segment, so we'll be keeping those in mind in the design. This is when we hit Guilford. And then continuing east across Able, keeping again at 12 feet in width. Barclay. Old York Road. And again, it's pretty much the same until through Ellerslie. And then when we hit, sorry, give me just a second. So this is kind of switches to the south side of the median, but is still in the median, staying on that south side instead of directly in the middle. Oh, Patrick, I'm going to come back to that. Through Edner Road. And Lochraven. All the way to the Alameda. And when we hit the Alameda, the current plans are to move that to the north side of the street here, keeping it as a 12-foot trail, but moving it outside of the median. And that continues along until we hit Hillen. And right now the design, of course, the end is on the east side of Hillen, and we'll be making sure that the intersection improvements allow for a good crossing from the Greenway Trail segment into Lake Montebello. Okay, that was pretty fast. Let's open it up for questions. First, I'd love to take questions from our commissioners first. And I see a couple in the chat from Patrick. Patrick, are the crosshatched areas at the intersection showing new pervious surface where the medians are being extended? Great question. You are talking about like this? Is that what you were thinking, Patrick? Yeah. And I believe the crosshatched is pavement or sidewalk removal. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it looks like those sections would be green and wider median, so that's offsetting some of the impervious surface that the trail is taking up.
So can I follow up? I have my hand raised for a different question, but go back to
Yes.
what you just had, May, because it
Yep.
looks like you're closing the median, correct? That's what the crosshatch in this specific area. It looks like you're closing the median to prevent a left turn.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to follow up on that.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, no, my street would be closed and a number of others.
Yep, Judd?
Thanks. I have like a lot of comments that I can put in writing at some point, but
Amazing.
I think I'd say, when I first saw this 30% design, I think the concern I have is a lot of neighbors along 33rd Street who could take or leave the trail. We're excited for the project's potential to introduce further traffic calming to 33rd Street. And I don't really see this. I mean, maybe there's like one left turn removal and a couple of the, a couple of these closures of crossings will help, but like the sort of east and westbound traffic is still probably going to be pretty fast. And there aren't a lot of sort of engineering improvements to slow that traffic included. And so I just worry that, when the folks that were expecting this to do more than just to build a trail see it, they're going to sour on it. And so I think as we progress from this design, that stuff should be incorporated. And I think there's potentially even a phased approach that could happen here where, the median could even be widened over time, for example, because there is such excess sort of travel way. And I think my other just kind of specific concerns were more on the Charles segment. I just don't really. We've had the west side of Charles Street completely closed to traffic now for like a year and a half or 2 years. And I'm not sure why we would construct like a whole very expensive new trail if we could just not open that side of the street back up. And then you just have the trail overnight completely constructed. So that southbound service lane is what I'm talking about. Because it's basically closed from 33rd to Art Museum Drive now, and then south of that, like no one drives on it. like the skateboarders are out there all day because it's so low volume with that closure. And then I think on the Lyman Park Drive section, I know the community really favored closing that street over making it one way. And again, I think that could, if the street is just closed, you don't have to build a whole trail there. The street just becomes the trail. I think you could easily close it past the ball field, and that way you could still get some parking in there for the ball field. But yeah, those are the main things. I don't know about switching to the north side at Alameda. I feel like doing it at like Tivoli. I understand the need to transition to the north side to make the crossing safer, because crossing Hill and in the middle is going to be crazy. But I think making that northbound switch at something like Tivoli and signalizing a smaller street like that for the crossing would be a lot safer than, you know, trying to make that crossing with the volume at Alameda.
Noted. Thank you.
All right. Maisel,
Yes.
can I jump in with my questions now?
Yes.
Yeah. So, one, I actually agree with something that Jed said on Charles of right now, you don't have traffic backing up even during rush hour on the days that at least most people should be going to work. So I think there is that consideration of what does that long term look like and the opportunity to use that path versus trying to, you know, just that. But the other thing I would say, I know you said that this was originally done in 2023, correct?
Yep.
The design. So a little consideration is that the new NACTO Bikeway Design Guidelines came out last year. And so there are updates to some of the recommendations. You're still within the design guidelines. So it really comes down to really right of way. I know that you want to stay in the right of way because then it makes the project more complicated. But even with low volume of bikes, the recommended is now 11 feet. And I know some places you're down to 8. So I would just look at it again and see if you have the right of way. Again, you can do 8 feet with the new design guidelines, but just see if you can get it to 11 where you're able to. And then for where you're closing the median and cutting off access, I just would consider consulting the updated design guidelines to look at allowing bikes and peds to flow through and making sure there's that cut. I know there's the cut for pedestrians at the crosswalk, but looking at the opportunity for how the bikes also get through that, like here, how they get through that intersection. If you need to, I would actually probably separate it and have the bikes go through the middle, but just look at that. There's some options, and I'm happy to send you some examples of what we did in Houston for that. And I'm not sure the speed limit on here, but I know they talked about safety concerns. If you can, depending on the speed limit and the ability to slow everything down, you could actually probably get away with a raised table. I don't know what that does to the drainage. So I know once you do one thing, it triggers a whole bunch of other things. But I would just take a look to see if you could actually just table that whole intersection if it doesn't impact drainage too much.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other commissioners' verbal comments? Otherwise, I can start moving through the chat. Okay. Sean, do you want to take this one on why we're moving it to the north side at Alameda instead of waiting to Hill?
Sure. So the reason for moving the project out of the median is because of decisions made with previous design stages between the council person and the community at the time. There was a specific request to move this project out of the median, preserve that sort of green space and tree cover as much as possible, while providing a higher level of traffic calming. Since those decisions, and I noticed that there were a couple comments about improved traffic calming, these 30% designs don't reflect some of the conversations we've had about memorializing parking or adding parking along the corridor that would constrain the travel lanes or remove it in some cases where it wasn't deemed that the throughput was, the ADT wasn't sufficient enough to have all of that space. Um, so that's, that's why we've moved it out of the median for those last 2 blocks.
Thanks, Sean. Some discussion about the width in here too. We are using a TAP award, so we're following SHA's guidelines on this, which I believe says 10-foot width with 2 foot on each side for the buffer. So we'll be updating the plans to be meeting that as well. Commissioners, anything else? Otherwise, I feel like I see some other comments in here that I'll start tackling. Veronica, is your hand still up, or is that leftover?
No, I think it's leftover. Let me lower it.
Leftover hand. Okay. Yes, Sean.
Patrick had a question about the paving materials, and the trying to maintain as much tree cover as possible. I think it's inevitable that this project will have some impact. We're working really hard to make sure that that impact is mitigated as best as possible on this project, as well as a number of our other trail projects. I've been looking at the possibility of using FlexiPave, which has its own maintenance challenges. As someone who worked with the DC trail system for an extended period of time, but there are instances where it can be utilized to save the root cover. There haven't been any decisions on that yet, but I'm just pointing out that there are options, and we are investigating all of them. I saw Miss Davis's face when I said that.
Let me tell you, we used porous concrete pavers in Houston, and it can be done. Your cost is going to go up by 3 times, and the bigger thing is making sure your maintenance team has the equipment, the materials to maintain it, because you really have to be on a very tight maintenance schedule.
Great. And Daniel, I see your comment in here about providing spaces to sit, and some great examples too. So thank you for sharing that. All right. I think we might move on. Feel free to drop other things in the chat. We can take a look at it later. But we will shift gears to a little bit of a project update. Sean, I will pass it back to you for the MC.
Great. So I think here we're going to talk a little bit about the Norfolk Southern. I think Mr. Chupin is in the chat, so Mr. Chupin, feel free to pipe up if I get some details incorrect. Do we have another slide, or is this the only slide? Look at that. Wow. So currently we are working on the acquisition for the Norfolk Southern Eastern Segment Corridor. Right now we have about $7.88 million identified. We were able to, and by we I mean DOP, through their outstanding work and negotiation skills, managed to secure both a DNR grant as well as a return of the federal earmark. I believe, and Nick, feel free to pipe in, but that we are reaching the final stages before we can start making offers on the property. This is, of course, the future site of the eastern segment of the Greenway Trails. It's going to go up this rail corridor all the way from Boston north as high as, what's the northern limit?
Federal Street.
Federal Street. Okay.
Yeah.
Nick, did you want to add anything that I might have missed?
Yeah, this is just for anyone who doesn't know, it's a rail corridor east of Haven Street that will be converted to a trail to connect the waterfront to Herring Run Park. Ultimately, there's a few other segments adjoining it that will help continue those connections. And the state grant that was from a few years ago that was lost, you may have read about it in the news. The administration did a good job of working with Delegate Edelson to get that added back into the fiscal year 26 state budget. And we were also awarded a grant for from Department of Natural Resources for green space equity programming. And we also reallocated some other city capital funds towards this project. So the administration is sort of taking the lead on managing the overall project through MOID, the Mayor's Office of Infrastructure Development, and we are prioritizing this through the budget process as well.
Do another slide.
I think that's it for this project.
So here is an update on the Patapsco Regional Greenway. This is the Cherry Hill kind of offshoot in South Baltimore. Do we have, oh good, Charlene, there you are.
Yep, ready. Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I'm Charlene Mingus, the active transportation planner at BMC, and I know Miriam Sultan, who's also working on the project as our multimodal planner, is here today. So we just wanted to give you an update on the Cherry Hill segment of the Patapsco Regional Greenway. So the PRG is envisions a 40-mile trail running through the Patapsco Valley from Sykesville in Carroll County to Baltimore's Inner Harbor. It would improve access to important regional amenities such as MTA Light Rail, Inner Harbor, Patapsco Valley State Park, and more. So we recently, well, it's the, this current segment, the Cherry Hill segment, is 1.7 miles. If you go back one, sorry. 1.7 mile trail. We want it to be comfortable and accessible for people of all ages and abilities. And we are currently working on the preliminary design or 30% design plans. Next slide. So the project launched in January of this year. We did our existing conditions work, seeing what's there on the ground now, and then presented the initial plan that was part of the original PRG plan that was created in 2017. We wanted to get the public's thoughts about that before we started coming up with new alignments. So that public involvement period was from March to April of this year, so it recently closed. We are reviewing the comments and identifying possible trail routes for multiple alternatives that we'll then present to the public in the phase 2 engagement this summer. And we want to get people's feedback so that we can help pick a preferred alignment or one of those that'll move on to the design plans. We'll then have a phase 3 engagement in winter, late this year or early next year, to present the final alignment and solicit feedback on trail amenities and things people want to see there. And after that, we'll take that information, create the 30% design documents, and share those design documents once the project concludes with the city, who would then advance the projects toward final design and construction. So next slide. So phase 1 engagement, as I mentioned, it just closed in April. We shared the initial plans for the trail segment and got people's feedback on that. We had 80% of people reported that they'd love to have it built tomorrow. So there's good support for it for the people who interacted with us. We had 100 online participants with over 1,600 project website views. We didn't have as big of a in-person public meeting attendance, so we'd like to see that increase for the next comment period. So we're really relying on our community partners who are on our advisory committee, and then our city and regional partners on the steering committee to help us reach out to people. Next slide. So some of the top takeaways are that people want all ages and all abilities facilities, which is great because that's supporting what we're doing. They want to be safe and separated from traffic as well. People would like to use the trail primarily for recreation, to encounter wildlife and plants. And then there's still a good amount of people who'd like to use it to travel to work. Next slide. Great. And so top community recommendations include prioritizing safety features, ensuring strong trail connections, so connecting to other, planned or existing trail segments in the region. Some of those include the Hanover Street improvements that are planned, the Gwynns Falls Trail existing, and then the planned MTA pedestrian and bicycle Patapsco Avenue Bridge that would connect to the Patapsco Avenue Light Rail Station. People wanted to make sure we minimize the impact to the environment, so minimizing tree loss and preserving scenic areas. People gave a lot of comments about maintenance and activation of the trail, so making sure once it's built that it's maintained and kept in good condition for use. And people emphasize the need to engage and include the community in this process with 30% design and then as the project advances further. Next slide. So next steps, we're taking the feedback and coming up with those potential alignments, working with our city partners, MTA, the Housing Authority to come up with different alignments that we want to then bring out to the community. I think next week we're going to publish responses to the public comments we've got. So keep an eye out for those, and I'll drop in the chat a link to the project. And you can sign up if you'd like to follow the project to get emails as we give updates. Let's see, so the final comment period would be later this year, early next year. And then in January, the project is anticipated to be completed. So I think that might be the last slide. My contact information is there, the project contact information, but I will also, as I mentioned, add the link to the chat for the project webpage. Great.
So thank you for
That's
that,
all I have
Charlene.
for today.
Appreciate that. So what we want to do at this stage, because that was a lot of great information that was just shared, we're going to go ahead and pause, and I want to open it up to our commissioners to have questions, either on the Norfolk portion or the Cherry Hill portion that was just discussed. I don't see any hands from our commissioners. We do have a couple of questions in the chat that we can quickly run through. The first one, I'm assuming, is around the Norfolk Southern. One issue that's been noticed is that the Haven O'Donnell crossing, or at the Haven O'Donnell crossing, excuse me, it appears that Monumental Supply Company is using the right of way for their gated yard. So has this been investigated, and has a solution been identified?
I can address that very quickly. At this stage in the project process, we have not spoken to the property owner yet. Obviously, as the designs continue to evolve and we start looking at this property as part of the actual trail, we will be doing a number of conversations about expectations and legal use of the public right of way.
All right. No follow-up questions on that one. I will go ahead to Ms. Worthing's question. It says, are we working with Southwest Area Park to have the gate on Patapsco Avenue open, along with the next gate inside the park to be open? Because right now those gates are locked tight to keep Baltimore City out of Southwest Area Park. Any knowledge on that?
Oh, sorry, I was going to say I can give a little context with that. But BMC worked with Baltimore County to work on that segment from Guinness to Southwest Area Park. Part of that proposal is to include a shared use path that would connect to the Patapsco Avenue Light Rail Station, but then also branch off and connect to Patapsco Avenue through that gate. We've been in contact with the city. As we know, they're working on Patapsco Avenue bike ped facilities. And so trying to figure out how that connection would be made safely so that people will have a place to cross, at a signalized intersection or with some kind of pedestrian crossing. But yes, that is something that has been worked on, and I can drop the project webpage for that if you'd like to learn more about it. You're always welcome to follow up if you had any questions.
Great. Are there any other questions that have not been touched? Okay. All right. With that, we'll go to our next section of the presentation.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Aviva Clue, and I'm with the Maryland Department of Transportation. I am in the Office of Planning, Programming, and Project Delivery, and we are updating, or I guess developing, the Maryland State Transportation Trails Strategic Plan. This is a coordinated effort between my office and the Office of Active Transportation and Micromobility. You may know Meg Young, she's the Deputy Director, and together these two offices are really putting together a strategic plan for transportation trails throughout the state of Maryland. Next slide, please. So this plan, again, I'll keep using the word strategic plan, but it is solely focused on transportation trails. We've been doing a lot of education and outreach as we have started the development. We're about 7-8 months into a year-long process, and we keep using this definition, but just for the context of this group, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but we are focusing on transportation trails. So that those are shared use paths that are a part of a transportation network, and they are open to the public for bicycle and pedestrian use, including most forms of micromobility. So think of e-scooters and skateboards, and they're often ADA compliant and AASHTO. We cannot emphasize this enough. They are not hiking and biking trails. We are partnering with the Department of Natural Resources, but this is not a plan that is happening in tandem with them from their recreational trails perspective. But even when we think of rec trails like the program and transportation alternatives that help fund trails and bikeways, all of that, we are focusing on mostly paved shared use paths and side paths for this plan. Next slide. So just a little history. The last trails plan that MDOT has produced was in 2009. And since that was a long time ago, there has been a lot of momentum and interest to create a new trails plan. There was actually legislation last year, so 2 sessions ago, to create a MDOT Trails office. And that legislation didn't pass, but we knew that the importance for establishing a transportation trails portfolio has been so important for MDOT. We have done it in different ways through this trails plan, through the updated 2050 bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And over time, we have been supporting different transportation trail efforts and really pulling together recommendations that are serving as the foundation for this draft plan. So on the slide, you can see some of the things that we are using as the foundation for our plan are the inventory of the existing shared use paths, looking at those missing links. What do we have planned across the state? What do we have programmed? What has some money to it? Are there feasibility studies for things out there that maybe they didn't quite make it into a plan? Really understanding what that means. Looking at how to prioritize missing links and crossings. And really the main focus is how do we identify tools and partners to make sure that we're building out these trail networks? How can the state, MDOT, help support our local partners in trail implementation? And I will say this now, this plan is not this is where you should build trails plan. We're not recommending that for Baltimore City. We're not recommending that for any local jurisdiction, but this is really meant to be a resource and provide tools for our trail implementers. Next slide. So this is just a little bit about our process. We just completed our existing conditions report in the fall, winter time, and we've been developing a transportation trails database. We pulled from existing plans and different resources, and we developed a transportation advisory committee, which is a subcommittee of the Maryland Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And we had this smaller group. It started with about 25, and now we email over 80 of trail-specific stakeholders, whether from their professional expertise to their local jurisdiction representation. And I see a couple people on here today that are on our TAC, so thank you so much. So we got the data from them. We reached out to the counties, the MPOs, the local jurisdictions. We put all of those transportation trails into the database of planned, programmed, and then we had an exercise of like potential, so like wishful thinking. And all of these are coming together to help inform the final plan. We're in our engagement part right now with our online survey, and then we're developing those toolkits. If you go into the next slide. The toolkits are really, this is what we hope to be useful to our trail implementation partners. The toolkits focus on building support. How do you identify your planning steps? How do you identify allies? How do you work with your adversaries? What are some best practices that can help you show why trails are meaningful to your community? Again, transportation trails, but how do you convince your leadership that there's an economic benefit to trails? There'll be another toolkit for aligning funding opportunities. There's so many different resources out there. And even in the chat today, you know, there's so many specifications for different programs, widths of paths that make you eligible or ineligible for different programs, MDOT programs like bikeways. How do we leverage all these local, state, and federal funding opportunities? What are some technical assistance that we can provide to help apply? We know that especially in our rural areas, there are so many people that are doing 3 to 5 jobs, and they just don't have the capacity to even to go after these funds. Or what do we do once we get them? Really want to help them there. And then the third one, we have received so much feedback over the development of this plan about maintenance. I know Meg recently joined the Maintenance Council, and we have been trying to get so much feedback on, okay, what are some strategies for maintaining trails of different surfaces in different areas of the state? What are some costs? And how do you build that into your trail project life cycle? Next slide, please. So if you go back in your mind to that graphic of all the inputs that go into the draft plan, engagement is so important to us. We're actively engaged with our technical advisory committee, who are engaged with their networks. We had a public webinar about 3 weeks ago, and we're trying to really get that. We're trying to get as big of a sample size as we can for engagement. Because this is a strategic plan, we aren't doing the same level of public outreach that we would do for our master planning efforts. So what we're trying to do is create a snowball effect and have our trails survey shared and utilized by anyone that's willing to share it. And so I know that Meg had talked to May about this, to use this avenue to really promote our trail survey, but we're really hoping to get feedback from not just our trails partners and subject matter experts like yourselves, but also the general public. So the trails plan is written in a way, and it is formatted in a way that anybody can use it. You can use it on your cell phone, you can use it on your desktop, because we want your feedback. Are you a trail user? Awesome. Let's identify that. There's a really cool mapping exercise that will help you, that will zoom into your, it'll be like your jurisdiction of choice. You'll type it in, but say Baltimore City, you put in your zip code, and it'll show you all these different transportation trails, and it'll ask about your familiarity. Are you even familiar with these? So many people aren't even familiar with what's in their backyard. Maybe you don't know the name, maybe you know the area, but what are some challenges that you see? Is the transportation trail that you use the most, is there a lot of vegetation problems? Maybe there's a lot of trash. Maybe there's a lot of pet waste. Maybe there's no lighting and you just don't feel safe. Or maybe it's great and you love it. The survey, if you are not a transportation trail user, it is still so important for you to take, because we're really getting that feedback. We're getting some general demographic information, and then there are questions of why you don't feel comfortable, because all of that helps go into those toolkits. So we can help create that goal of a statewide trail network. The survey is open until May 9th. So we have a little more time. I have some flyers that I can email you with a QR code. I'm going to put the link in the chat. So you can go to our website, and the survey is so cool because it's survey 123 because of the mapping. And again, desktop or mobile. let me see. So far we've received about 500 survey respondents so far, and I think that's really great for our like minimal public outreach for this. We've been utilizing our networks and utilizing different groups, but really if you hear of any opportunity to share, please do. I think I have one more slide. Yes. So our Transportation Trails webpage is live. We're creating an ArcGIS experience builder website so that we'll have that trails database on there. We want to put different things with the existing conditions, but getting a webpage on MDOT site was our first priority because, again, this is something that will live beyond the development of this plan. This plan will only be about a year to complete, but we are trying to build out MDOT's transportation trail portfolio. How can we provide assistance in all of our active transportation and our state highway different efforts? We just updated our complete streets policy last spring. I guess it was last June, and we have put it into focus. Okay, starting January 1st, all of our modal administrations need to consider complete streets for every project. And Transportation Trails is a part of that effort. And so if you go to our website, it's www.mdot.maryland.gov/transportation trails or trails plan. We made it so easy. So anybody from whatever avenue you're coming from, you can get to this website. The survey's there. A lot of information is there. We have information on our TAC. And if you want to be involved with our Transportation Advisory Committee, we have one more meeting. It will be in July, and that will be going over the final plan. And if you have any interest in going over the final draft documents, please let me know. You can email mbpac@mdot.maryland.gov, or you can email me. I can put my email in the chat, and we'll make sure that your voices are heard. We are so appreciative of all the feedback that everyone has provided along the way. Again, I see some familiar names, and it has been so helpful for the development of this plan. We don't want this to be another plan. We want this to be a true resource. I think that's all, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that was really fast.
I think we'll hand it over to our commissioners first to answer some of the questions that they may have. And maybe hearing none, we can let people raise their hands if they'd like. Okay. They're speechless.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next section is a quick update on the Vision Zero Action Plan. Ms. Rose is our Vision Zero project manager, but she's not with us today, so I'm going to go briefly through some of the updates. Right now, the biggest one is that our near miss survey is live. This is a really exciting tool for people from all over the city to interact directly with BCDOT, as well as the creation of our high injury network. We are crafting a quantitatively driven map that's going to help us prioritize projects in areas of high conflict. And we're going to use the data that we're gathering right now through the near miss survey to do that. So feel free to take it. Feel free to share it with your neighbors. And this Vision Zero Action Plan process is going, from what I understand, very well. And we should see some real returns and some potential public-facing drafts sometime early next year. We have, do we have a way of putting the link in the chat for everyone? I guess I could just type it and maybe it would become a hyperlink. Is that true?
We shall see.
No, look at that.
There you go. Thank you, Sarah.
All right. So I think next we have some updates for Bike to Work Week. Is Amani with us?
Anaya should be on the line.
Oh, great.
Geez, I had to step back just 1 second. Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hi, welcome. Oh, camera on. Hi, welcome to iRide. My name is Anaya Smith. I'm the Transportation Marketing Coordinator. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm super excited to give you all updates. So, yeah, I am ready. So for this year's Bike to Work Day, we have several stops. The stops that I will be overseeing personally will be, as we all know, the highly anticipated Mayoral War Memorial stop. We have a Harbor Connector stop that will be updated on the list soon. That will be at Maritime Park. And then a Charm City Circulator stop that'll be in front of the aquarium. And then we all know about the Pratt Street Library stop as well. So for the War Memorial stop, we will have the mayor, Mayor Scott, Director Macbeth of DOT, and various biking partners speaking at the event. We have various vendors that will be there as well, such as Nando's, Lime and Spin, as well as other agencies like Rec and Parks. BMC will be there, MDOT will be there. We even have Enterprise because we have a new van pool incentive coming up as well. So we're going to try to connect the two. Last mile types of things as well will be there. And then some new promotional items we'll be doing this year are glow in the dark bike bottles, oversized cooling towels, reflective slap bracelets, bike helmets for the children, and SPF lip balms. So yeah, those are the quick updates. More updates to be coming within the next week or so. But please feel free if you have any questions or anything you would like to see that we can implement in this short amount of time, because it is rapidly approaching, but I'm always open to any ideas that can be implemented. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm very open to discuss. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So yeah, we encourage folks to please visit the website. Go ahead and check out all of the great things that have been taking place and go ahead and register as necessary. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next section. If there are no questions on this, I didn't see any hands up, but let me make sure before we do move forward. All right, awesome. With that, we will go ahead and move on to talking about micromobility updates. And I believe we have Tyler Smith here to talk about the dockless vehicle program.
We do.
All right, awesome.
Hello. So just a update from the scooters and e-bike side of micromobility in Baltimore. Lime, who newly rejoined our market last year, has been hitting all their goals in terms of making sure the vehicles are well spread throughout the city, making sure the vehicles are at certain key intersections, and also ensuring that their vehicles don't stay in one place for over 5 days, while also passing all of their vehicle inspections. Lime has asked for the ability to put 250 additional scooters out on the streets, as well as 100 additional e-bikes, and that has been approved by the Baltimore City Department of Transportation. So you can expect to see even more scooters and e-bikes out there as an option for folks to get around. And that is my one slide. So do we want to pause for questions on that here, or I defer to the moderators?
Sure, we can see if there are any questions.
Okay.
Hello,
Mr.
can you hear me? Hello?
Santana?
I have a question.
Oh, my apologies, ma'am. Yes.
That's quite all right. Getting back to the e-bikes, is the advisory board going to entertain having bikes registered, having bikes have license plates and having bikes be responsible for adhering to the traffic laws that are on the street, since they're going to be on the streets that motorists are driving on. Has there been any discussion for that?
Alan, I'm happy to take that one.
Yes, sir, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So I can say that the national discussion around bike registration, bike licensing, is at this point has not reached the level of adoption anywhere in the United States. It is not something that is being entertained currently by Annapolis or by our legislators. What I can say is that we encourage everyone to bike safely and bike defensively. We did not pass this year in Annapolis the Idaho stop or the rolling stop. So we encourage people on bikes to continue to, practice common sense and be as safe as possible when biking.
I understand. I thank you for that answer. However, simply because it's not being done in other states doesn't mean that Maryland cannot take the forefront in this. I think it's imperative that any type of vehicle that's going to be on the roads should adhere to the traffic laws. I think they should be registered. A Senate bill was introduced by Stallings, and it was withdrawn. It was a good bill. And I talked to Antonio Hayes about perhaps introducing something. He only wanted to concentrate on the North Avenue project that he's dealing with. But he promised me that he would get with MDOT and get some studies and do some research on it to see what can be done about that. I really feel that if I am going to receive a ticket for going through a traffic light or not stopping at a stop sign, that who's ever on the road should adhere to that. And if not, they should receive a ticket. And I think it's imperative for that. And it just seems so unfair that you may want to be on the roads, but you don't want to adhere to the traffic laws. And it's unfair that your vehicle, your bike or whatever, is not registered and does not have a license plate. And that's something that I think you guys should consider, simply because, and I'll say it again, it hasn't been done elsewhere, doesn't mean it can't be done in Maryland.
Understood. Thank you for that comment. Duly noted, and as Mr. Burnett has noted, and as you have also noted, that there has been legislation that has been put forth, but with something we will again revisit during our next legislative session. Any other questions?
Yes, I have my hand raised. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm in favor with the last speaker. I am pushing and lobbying our representatives for full licensing, regulation, and as well as safety equipment requirements. We've already seen it. Even with these bike lanes, folks are not respecting the traffic laws. They are running through the lights. I witnessed my own self, someone, it was an accident, unfortunately scraping a vehicle. Who's going to be held accountable for that? The more you guys are pushing, and I'm in support, a little bit, of these bike projects. I'm a former New York City resident. I was a bicycle messenger for years. That's not 100% true in reference to regulation is concerned. If you are using your bike commercially in New York City, you have to have a permit. You have to have a license that's displayed on your bike, and you can't be ticketed. I was ticketed plenty of times for doing things like riding on the sidewalk when you're not supposed to. So I'm in full favor of regulation. If you're going to take over the road, you're going to redesign the road, and you're going to, impede on regular pedestrian traffic, motorist traffic, then I feel that there should be the same rules and regulations. The playing field should be the same. So I'm pushing for that. And I think that it's a safety issue as well. And I'm even going to ask our legislators in reference to insurance as well. Because if you hit someone And again, if you don't have a proper documentation of who was riding that bike, that's why they have that in New York City. You hit someone, someone can see that license plate clearly displayed on your bike, write that number down and file a complaint against you. That needs to be done here as well. There has to be some sort of liability and responsibility and accountability if you're talking about sharing the same space that commercial vehicles and residents of our city utilize. It has to be. There has to be a tougher enforcement, especially you're talking about 200 additional bikes and things like that. There has to be, because someone's going to end up getting hurt seriously, and no one's going to be held accountable for it in the long run. That's it. I digress.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that comment, and it is duly noted. We're going to go ahead to the next question. Mr. Frost?
Hi. Well, first of all, can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I completely disagree with the past two comments. I don't think that any of that is necessary. And anyway, onto my actual comment. It's a question for DOT and planning. How can we move away from flex posts and towards precast concrete curbs as the default permanent option for separated infrastructure? Flex posts may be a bit cheaper upfront, but it seems like constant maintenance and replacement would make them overall more expensive than concrete. Do we have any data on this? And like what's being done to hopefully move away from flex posts and towards something harder in the future?
Julian, thank you for that question. What I can tell you now is that the agency is investigating a number of different options. What the bicycle facility manager for DC, we implemented a number of different kind of precast solutions that I think are very attractive for implementation on a number of these types of projects. While I cannot make a pledge today that we're going to be radically altering the design standards for all of our facilities, what I can say is that is something that we are thinking about, we're discussing internally, and I think the data at this point bears out that over a certain period of time, there are the possibilities of cost savings when you factor in maintenance and things of that nature. So yes, we are considering that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to just mention that I also believe that there's a sort of flex posts sort of pose a legitimacy issue for bicycle infrastructure. I think, I'm not saying that you're not doing enough. You're clearly working on it. But I think, people that are skeptical of bike infrastructure are more likely to continue to be skeptical if the designs look a little bit cobbled together or scratched up and, with like bent flex posts. And so I think it just from an optics standpoint, it may be working against us. So.
Okay. Thank you for that comment. Thank you for that. So we have time for two more questions on this topic. I saw that Ms. Veronica had her hand up, and then we're going to go with Ms. Worthing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sean, I'm happy to follow up with you about the different materials we tested in Houston. And I can definitely give you the good, the bad, the ugly. And I know you've worked with materials in DC as well.
Great.
Is it my turn?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we able to go on to, I just have a problem area in Baltimore City I'd like to discuss. Are we on to that area of the subject?
We're not there yet. So what we will do, let's get through the next piece of our updates, and we will close out with our Q&A regarding any additional at-large questions or concerns they may have. And I'll make sure I come to you first.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on to the community updates and events. Mr. Burnett, will you be sharing that information with us?
I sure can. I believe we were going to extend the option or the offer to Mr. Weeks to go through some of his events first, with his organization, and then maybe I could clean up.
All right. So, Mr. Weeks, you're up.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, happy to do that. So this Friday and the first Friday of every month, we have a bike breakfast, which is in the courtyard behind Sophomore Coffee. And it's just sort of a drop in. We've got food, we've got coffee. So you can come talk biking stuff with us, answer questions or ask questions of our staff or board members. So that's 7:30 to 9 on Friday, kicking off Bike to Work month. Saturday, we've got a bike packing workshop at our office from 10 to 12, and that is going to be with the national organization Bike Packing Routes, which advocates for more like sort of dirt trail bike packing across the country, and their executive director happens to live in Baltimore, so she'll be leading that. We've got Spoken Word, which is a Stoop Stories event, Tales from the Bike Lane, on May 15th, and so that's going to be down at Checker Spot Brewery. We're also having a transit happy hour before that from 5 to 7 with Delegate Edelson and Senator Hedelman to talk about the past legislative session. We also have an ice cream ride on 5/17, and then we're doing a family biking pop-up event at the BMA on the 18th from 12 to 4. And so we'll sort of be out front with a bunch of other different community organizations and small nonprofits talking about focus on local and focus on the earth, but we'll have like some family biking stuff there and do a family biking Q&A for anyone that's interested in learning more about cargo bikes and family biking. That's all I got.
Cool. Great. Thank you. Did we cover the mobile bike shop dates?
Yeah, so generally we do have mobile bike shops, as well, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're seeking a new mechanic so we can do that more reliably this season. Our volunteer mechanics have had some conflicts come up with their day jobs, and so I would say we're not reliably there right now, so check our social media to make sure if we'll be there on a Tuesday or Thursday, but hopefully in the next week or two we'll have a new mechanic hired. And if you guys know anyone who's looking for a part-time mechanic job in the evenings, $20 an hour starting wage, feel free to send them our way.
Cool. This is usually when we open it up to the group to see if anyone has another event that they'd like to promote that is bicycling related. You can raise your hand, put it in the chat, or just, say nothing at all. Whoa. All right. That's a good one. Charles Street Promenade, June 14th. So plenty of heads up time. There should be no excuses for anybody on this call now. Okay. I think we can move on.
Okay. So with that, if there are no other community updates, we will open it up to a few comments and questions at large. So Ms. Worthing, you are up first.
Am I unmuted? I can't.
You're
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. All right. We got a little bit of a problem, Baltimore. A couple weeks ago, Rash Field is about to be redone, and they put the temporary fencing up. And what did they do? They cut out a good chunk of the promenade, and it looks like they're also going to cut off the bike lane up that's along Key Highway. And I'm into it with both feet. I've got Zach Blanchard working on trying to get us some more room. It's a real safety hazard as it is right now. But then we're moving on to this big, huge project that's going to be performed on, what is that, Light Street, Pratt Street, and all those streets. They're going to be redoing that. And I'm just wondering about what the plan is for temporary bike lanes, because if all of that is under construction, we're going to lose our bike lane. So can somebody from the DOT please comment on that?
Sure. So we have had a number of back and forth conversations within the agency. The traffic division is working very closely with planning as well as the administration, trying to address this. The last update I received was that there was a plan that was going to be implemented that would create a replacement protected lane that would allow for continuous movement, excuse me, past the construction zone out of the travel lane of vehicles. I don't have the update for when that is being implemented, but I can check with our traffic division, or maybe
Yeah,
even
I
Mr.
would like
Beaton.
to see I'd like to see the map on that because I'm just terrified of what's already happened with the Rashfield situation is going to happen again. So we want to get ahead of that and make sure that we have adequate temporary infrastructure for bikes, pedestrians, and everybody else.
Yes, ma'am. It is top of mind and top of concern. Mr. Bleakney, if you could reach out, and even if before the meeting is over, if you have an update on that, that would be well appreciated.
Yeah, I can definitely say I went to Rashfield with another engineer on the team to go check that out and talk about potential alternatives, including leaving the lane open. But let me send out an email internally and CC you, Sean, just asking about an update and, you know, if we can bring that to the next bike commission meeting or sooner. And, you know,
Mr. Bleakney, you muted yourself, but Ms. Worthing, we will pass along any updates directly to Councilman Blanchard, who we have been in active discussion about all of these concerns with.
Okay, but just one more comment. You've just basically cut off Locust Point and all Harborview from accessing downtown with this little maneuver on Rashfield.
To be clear, it wasn't the city's maneuver, but it was the contractor, and that's why we're working very diligently to correct it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other concerns? Any other issues that you would like to have raised?
I would like to raise something. I want to go back to BMC, the young lady that gave the presentation. She brought out a good point. She said that a lot of folks in the community are not aware of perhaps the benefits of having the trails, the recreational trails and whatever, and that is something that should be discussed. On the other end, I think also those communities that do not see how a trail, bike lanes, or whatever is going to be an economic impact positively and will not be safe in their community. I think both sides have to be heard, and I don't think it's been heard enough on the other side. And I think it would be fair, such a discussion at BMC, I don't know who they've been meeting with, who they've been giving these surveys to, I certainly haven't received it, that there should be an active conversation, sensible and respectful on both ends, stating with data, research, and statistics on both sides why some communities would not feel that it would be a good fit for them. And I don't think that's really taken place. I think there's been a one-sided on the bike enthusiasts end and not enough conversations with the communities. I heard one young lady with one of her slides said they've had 500 responses. From whom? I would love to see and analyze these responses because I'm very skeptical of it. But we should have dialogue on both sides, and perhaps we can come to a sensible conclusion and work together. And I think that's what's missing.
Appreciate your comment on that. One of the things I would recommend and encourage you to do as we are posting all of these opportunities for community engagement, where we're presenting these plans, we welcome you to come and join us at those discussions so that we can hear from both sides to make sure that we are incorporating all the information. So again, I do thank you for that. All
I
right.
appreciate that, but I think we're missing it with the posting and the computers and whatever. I wish there were a way of better communicating with the people. I know we're in this computer age, we're in the Wi-Fi and whatever, but there are a lot of folks out here, as she said, aren't aware. And you got to ask yourself, why aren't they aware? Because the message is not getting to them. So we have to change the way in which the message is being put forth. I don't have all the answers, but apparently she agrees in her slide that the public, a lot of the community are not getting this information.
Yes, ma'am. And that's one of the things we are focused on, figuring out how do we make sure that we are meeting people where they are to get them the information that they need to make informed decisions. And that's what we like to use this forum for at times. So with that, I want to kind of talk about our next meeting. Upcoming meeting will be July the 30th and then October the 29th. And remember that all meetings will be held on the last Wednesday of the month from 4 to 5:30. And if you want to learn a little bit more about what we do, you can always go to transportation.baltimorecity.gov/MBAC to get updated notes on the discussions that we've had in the previous, as well as any upcoming events that would be something that you will be interested in. So with that, I am going to close out the meeting today. I thank each and every one of you for joining us today. I appreciate the input. I am so excited about the new commissioners. I thank you so very much for your knowledge and your engagement today. And with that, it's a beautiful day out. Hopefully those folks will get out the opportunity to get out and enjoy it, whether you're going to be riding, scooting, or walking. Please get out and enjoy the weather. With that, I bid you all adieu and have a great evening.